Welcome back to the homestead. We have been super busy the last few weeks and we've done a lot of projects. So we wanted to take the opportunity to bring you on a little bit of a tour of what we've done, show you a few of the projects that we've not brought you along for, and you'll see a few glimpses of some of the ones that we have. As you can see behind us is the new summer kitchen, and it is basically complete. We haven't put a floor into it yet, other than just the bare dirt, but it's got the fire pit, it's got the hood. You saw us do the shingling and the metal. So that project has come along really well, and it's basically come to a wrap up. So let's do a little tour of everything that we've planted and some of the changes around here. So we'll start over here with our new strawberry beds. We ordered 250 strawberry plants from Norse Farms, and those were delivered. Great experience with ordering from them. They were delivered on time, they were delivered in excellent condition, and we really haven't seemed to have any failures at all out of those plants. They look great, very healthy, so we're very pleased with that. Along here, we've planted a variety of trees, and those are dual purpose. So this is a peach tree, and you can see that it is loaded with peaches this year. So that's going to be wonderful. I know we'll have to take a lot of this fruit off because this tree is not large enough to sustain this many peaches, but we're super excited to have peaches this year off of our very own trees. And the other purpose for these trees is to shade the chicken coop as they grow, because chickens like to have some access to sun, but they don't like to be overheated. And so giving them the opportunity to stay in the shade if they want to is a valuable resource for them. The next tree we have here is a Hellesen apple. And this is a variety that's usually used for juicing, but can also be used for fresh eating. This is a June Alberta peach, so it's supposed to be a slightly earlier fruiting variety of the same Alberta peach that we have over there. And then we have a Wolf Creek apple on the back side. These are raspberry bushes. We got these again from Norse Farms, but these were from last year, so you can see that they've really settled in, and typical of raspberries, they are beginning to spread. So we'll do some maintenance on these and take out some of the runners, and we can transplant those to other locations. So that's actually really a wonderful asset. It's a great feature of raspberries. You can transplant them very, very easily. Going through here, this is our new grape arbor that Ryan built for me.
Our Dr. Seuss grape arbor.
I said that I needed a grape arbor, and he's like, well, can it be a bit whimsical? And I said, yeah, it can. And so we found some cedar trees that we had taken down in our garden project to make the space for the new garden beds. And he just took a chainsaw, and about 20 minutes later, we had a place for our grapes to grow. So on this side, we have a green grape, and the variety is currently escaping me. And on the other side, we have a Concord, which is a purple grape, and then one more of the same green grape variety there in the back. And those green grapes did suffer a little bit when we initially put them out. We got a frost after our last expected frost date when I had planted them, and it got them a little bit wilty, but they seem to have perked up a lot, and they're doing very well now. So down back, you can see that we have our meat birds. This is 25 of the 50. The other 25 are in the stall in the barn. But these guys are growing really fast. And so they're about 3.5 to 4 weeks old right now. And then the next big project was this fence. So we have had a lot of problem with the deer coming up and eating our fruit trees and otherwise damaging plants in the yard. So I told Ryan that I wanted a fence all the way around from the barn to basically the front door to keep all of our plants protected. And deer can probably jump this. It is only a 6-foot fence, but it's a strong discouragement, and that's what we're really looking for. If they're that hungry, well, then they can come in and eat. So we put this fence up all the way around the perimeter.
And you'll see that as we go. Different spots in the video, you'll keep noticing it. It transitions to a wooden fence out front that we'll show you in a little bit.
And you may recall that I talked to you guys about the load of fruit trees that I got from our local Tractor Supply. And this is some of them we've gone ahead and planted. This is our red delicious apple.
And look at the new growth
and
on that already.
It's, as you can see, yes, doing really well. This whole branch is all new growth. This top for about the first 4 inches there is all new growth. This is new. So this tree is settling in really nicely. So we're very optimistic. It's always a little bit of a risk when you transplant, but this one seems to be doing very well. Same thing with our Fuji apple here. It does look like I need to get down here and do a little bit of pest control because there's definitely some chewing going on these leaves, and we don't want that for our new little tree. But it's got a lot of growth and it looks really good. So does our golden delicious apple. We're gonna go ahead and pick a bug off of it here. But this is our golden delicious. You can see it's also put on some substantial growth. And then we get into our plums. Our plums seem to be having a little bit of a harder time with the transition to outdoors and being planted, but this one's looking pretty good. The leaves are pretty perky and it does show some signs of new growth. And this one actually looks even better than the other one. The one we have that's not so great is the next one down here. This one took a heavy turn for the worse before we actually transplanted it. And we decided to take a risk and go ahead and transplant it into the ground anyway because it was looking pretty rough in the pot that we had it in. And I'm not quite sure what got it. It seemed almost like frost damage, but it shouldn't be a tree that's bothered by a light frost. And I don't think we left it out in any temperatures that were cold enough, and none of the trees around it had a problem. So I'm not really sure what happened with it. It does still show a little bit of signs of life. So hopefully, with any luck, it'll come back. These are our 2 blackberry bushes. These are a thornless variety of blackberry. That's something being from up in Washington State, I'm really not used to, because trust me, all of our blackberries have thorns. But hopefully these have some great fruit on them in the years to come. Now over here is the aforementioned asparagus beds. So asparagus requires that you dig a trench for it that's about 10 inches deep. And then you want to put 2 inches of good compost soil in the bottom. Asparagus likes a very sweet soil. It does not want an acidic soil, so we added some lime to our trenches as well. And when our asparagus gets here, this will all have been watered in well. And then we'll put our starts in the bottom. We'll put a little mound so that the roots can drape down over them. And then we'll cover it up with dirt and get it all situated. We'll bring you along for that planting because we think that'll be interesting. But anyway, these 2 trenches are for our 50 asparagus plants. Asparagus do need to be planted about a foot apart. So that brings us to our big garden. You saw the video where we did the cutting of all the trees and then the rototilling, and so there's been a lot of work that's gone into this patch in the last 2 months to get it ready for all the planting. But as you can see, we've done a pretty good job filling it up so far. Over here, we have our pole beans. So what we've done for them is we put a cattle panel for them to trellis up onto. And so by the time they get tall enough that they really need support, they should be able to reach that cattle panel. We may have to put a couple sticks in the ground to give them to climb up to it. But we know that these beans can get a good, easy 8 feet tall and even taller with proper trellising. So we want to make sure that they had a good, hardy thing to hang on and that they had plenty of space to spread out. We've got regular bush beans in this section. Our corn is over there. You can see that that's really well sprouted. We have 2 varieties. One of them is one of the Baker Creek varieties, and another is just from our local feed store. But it is a sweet corn, not a cow corn. It's very important that you plant a variety of corn that is an eating variety and not a cattle feed variety. The cattle feed variety doesn't taste very good. Right here we have 2 rows of purple potatoes. So when you cut these open, they actually have a dark purple flesh. They're pretty cool looking. And you can see, if Ryan gets you down close in there, that the leaves actually have a purple tone to them. So those should be really fun. And then the next 5 rows here are all white potatoes. So they are, I believe, Kennebec white potatoes. And those take us all the way down to our onions. And these were onion sets that we planted. We did not plant these from seed. You can plant onions from seed, but it takes a lot of planning ahead. I tried them this year. Mine were a pretty good failure, so onion sets it is. After that, we have 3 rows of peas. Ryan and I both love eating peas, especially fresh, but also frozen. And so we planted a lot this year. We are not sure that we'll have a lot of ambition for shelling as many peas as we have, but even if we don't, they're always a great thing to give away to friends. Over there, we have our Buttercup squash. And we planted 4 plants this year. I think that'll be plenty to give us a pretty good harvest. We got really good production out of our Buttercup squash last year. You can see over there, another one of our major projects that we did earlier this spring was build a pad for the camper to sit on. So what that allows is if we have any friends that want to come stay, they can use the camper and have a little bit of privacy. Our house is pretty small, so having guests can be a little bit difficult, but that allows them to have their own private space and come and enjoy our property with us. So we're excited to have my mom out later this fall. Moving along over here, we have Ryan's cucumbers that he just got today. We did get these from a local nursery. And we do have cucumbers of our own that we planted from seed, but you can never have too many cucumbers. Over there is another line of our strawberries. And then, of course, more peas along the fence. You're gonna see that as a recurring theme in the garden.
And more fence.
More peas, more fence.
I'm going to do a little circle here because this is right here behind Sue is the end of the 6-foot wire. So that goes there and it goes down around behind the garden without making you guys seasick. Right in front of the Ted shed. Turns a corner right about there. Goes all the way up into there. And turns and ends up at the barn 360 feet later.
So it's a pretty long fence. It took us a few days, but you got to see us drive some of the T-posts for that using the excavator. That made Ryan really happy because he says the T-post pounder is not our friend. It's a pretty good arm workout, and so it was really nice to be able to figure out how to drive the T-posts using the excavator bucket. Come on up through here and we'll show you more of our projects. This is a staircase that Ryan built to give us a pathway through our strawberry beds. So this is another set of 2 of our varieties of strawberries. We got 50 of each of 5 varieties to give us the maximum length of harvest. You're looking shifty.
And we put in power and water right here down in the garden. So this is plumbed all the way back to the house. And there's also a water spigot on the side of the summer kitchen. But the power down here is predominantly for the campsite. So if somebody wants to plug the camper in, they can. Our camper has solar panels on it, but if somebody else was to come up, we could move our camper and they could plug in. And Sue's blueberry addiction.
That's 2 of, I believe, somewhere near 30 blueberry plants that we've now put in this season. So those are doing really well. And that brings us to the original garden,
which is inside the cedar post and wire fence.
This bed still has nothing, but we're getting to it. I think we're probably going to plant some more tomatoes in here. This bed is full of beets. This is a Cortland apple that we planted 2 summers ago.
Yep.
This is a Macintosh apple. More of our tomato plants.
And the board fence we talked about. So this fence here from the gate all the way around to the front door of the house is a 4-foot tall board fence. Our plan is to put holes or straps or something and put the 3-foot tall plastic T-posts about every 6 feet and put 2 layers of the white hot tape on it in the winter. And then that we hope will deter the deer from jumping over it in the winter.
These are our zucchinis and yellow squash. So we have a bed and a half of zucchini and a bed and a half of yellow squash. If you zoom in really close on the yellow squash, you can see that we already have some blossoms forming that have squash. So with any luck and a little pollination, we'll have squash. This is our 4-way cherry. So this has been grafted on with 4 different breeds of cherry. We have a Lépines cherry, a Stella cherry, a black Tartarian cherry, and something else that I'm not finding. But anyway, there's 4 cherries all in one tree. This was the tiniest little peach tree when we planted it 2 years ago. It was actually smaller around than this stick when we brought it home, and it's grown a ton. It's done really well, and this year it even has peaches on it. So we won't let it have but maybe 2 or 3 peaches total because it is a very small tree yet, but we are really excited to get peaches off of this one this year. And this one was bought at the same time, but was a slightly larger, although not much larger tree. Last year, it just exploded with growth. It went from about this high, about the size the other one is now, to this height. It was pretty wild watching it grow. It was almost a daily thing that you could watch it get bigger. And these are both Alberta peaches. This is our... Oh, blueberry bush. They're everywhere.
You'll randomly see blueberries everywhere.
This is our Fuji apple. We have another one in the ones that we planted down back earlier this year. So this is another tree that's been in the ground for 2 years. So you can see it's really gotten nice and thick. It's got really good growth this year. More blueberries. And this is our Honeycrisp apple tree. This one was looking really almost as good as the Fuji. And then we had a little deer visitor, and you can see that it got pruned on the ends of almost every single one of these branches. I was pretty heartbroken over that, which is why we have the fence now. So hopefully we'll have no more deer visitors eating my trees. There's another blueberry. That's our patch of bush beans. So we have both standard green and dragon tongue beans in there. So that should be a fun little thing when those start to have beans on them. They're sort of a greenish yellow with purple spots. This is an Asian pear tree, and that's a fruit. It's almost like a cross between an apple and a pear. It's rounder than a standard pear, and it's got a really nice crunch to it. They're very sweet. So this tree, actually, it wasn't picked so much for its fruit. It was picked because Ryan thought these leaves were really pretty, and he thought it would make a nice decorative tree.
The leaves get really big midsummer, so kind of cool.
We'll bring you back and show it again later. But these are really, really wonderful fruit. They're very tasty.
More blueberries.
More blueberries.
And another Asian pear.
Of course, you need cross-pollination, so we do have another Asian pear. This one, I believe, one of these two, I can't remember which one, can also cross-pollinate with our Bartlett pear, which is in our food forest. So it's important when you're looking at varieties to make sure that the trees that you're getting can cross-pollinate with other trees that you already have or other trees you intend to plant, because that's where you'll get the best fruit. And as you can see, that tree is absolutely loaded with fruit. Over here we have some new starts that we just planted today. So the basil in this bed and the peppers I did grow myself from seed. But the purple cabbage, we went ahead and got that from our local nursery. I have done poorly with cabbage in the past. We're really hoping that it works better this year. It usually tends to get bug eaten really badly, but we're gonna try it one more time.
More blueberries. Hey, more blueberries.
More blueberries. As you can see, our mint here is doing absolutely fantastically. It's gotten huge. Mint is kind of one of those gardener secret plants that you just can't kill. So we did try and contain it by putting it in a box. That's worked decently up until this year. But you can see over here, hiding in my blueberry, is mint. It's gonna be everywhere here in another year or two, I'm sure. But it is lovely to have, and I enjoy it very much fresh. So herbs are always great. Here's our original strawberries. These have been in the ground for 2 years now, and they've never really been very successful berries. I don't know if it's the variety that we picked or if they've been underwatered. Last year, I definitely suspect it was a lack of moisture that contributed to the berries being not very good. So I'm trying to water them really heavily this year, and I'm optimistic that maybe some of the strawberries will be really good this year. This is our carrots that we planted super early in the season. And then behind them, I have another set that I planted just about a week and a half ago, and they're just starting to poke up out of the ground, a few of them. And then behind them, of course, more peas. Here we have more peppers and more tomatoes and some volunteer onions. So those onions came up from onions that were left in the garden last year. Here we have spinach, and we had really good success in germination on one portion of the bed and really poor on the other. So there's more spinach planted in front of the old spinach. And beets, radishes, and more beets. And back there, a couple of stray cucumbers. Down this side, we have a bunch of tomatoes and some basil. That was all purchased today, again, from our local nursery. So we're trying to boost our tomato crop a little bit. The ones that I started from seed, some of them weren't quite as successful as one might have liked, but you can see some of the ones I started from seed are doing really well. They're over in that bed and in the bed we showed you previously. Our sage is doing beautifully. That's a 2-year-old sage plant, and it's really definitely coming into its own. We won't use that much sage this year, but it's also beautiful to look at. We have thyme. We have a thyme plant up by the house, but it's always kind of suffered in the location it's in because it's in a raised bed that's not got a lot of protection, and it seems to get a little too cold for it. So we put in a new thyme plant out here, and we also have a rosemary plant. We've not gotten our rosemary to overwinter. I believe this climate is too cold to overwinter it, but I'm going to try mulching it in this bed and maybe it'll make it through the year. And have I told you yet we planted a lot of peas? Here's a few more. They're planted all along the back of this bed and all along the bed beside it. In here is more radishes, more spinach, of course some more peppers, and our lettuce bed. So there's a couple more beds over there. So just outside the fence, we have 3 more beds. Those have a few more tomatoes, a few more peppers. Obviously there's some onions in there as well. We've found that it works really well to plant the onions in between rows of other things, so they get interspersed. And then this third bed is an interesting mix because I was like, well, what haven't I planted that I'm really wanting to get in the ground this year? So I had some seeds from a yellow watermelon that I had bought at the store last year, and it was really tasty, and so I decided I'd save the seeds last year and plant them. So there's some seeds from that in there. They have germinated, so we don't know what we'll get, because when you plant seeds from an item that you got at the grocery store, there's a fair to decent chance that you won't get the expected results because it may not be a heritage variety, but we're gonna see what we get. So it'll be fun. Watermelon aren't really great in this climate, so we'll see if we get anything at all. There's more cucumbers in there. There's a dog. I also planted bok choy, which I have never tried before, but it seemed like a fun thing, so when I saw it in our seed catalog, I did order it. And more radishes. And you can see with those stakes there, 2 of our rhubarb plants. Sprite is really enjoying the new fence because it's given her a lot more freedom to wander around the yard with less supervision, and she loves less supervision. She thinks it's really fun to just be able to trot around and run through my strawberry beds and do dog stuff out here. So she thinks it's really cool that we have it fenced in. Come on over this way and we'll show you the food forest. So this is what we call our food forest. And we got that concept from the James Prigioni gardening channel, and we'll link that below. He's been really fun to watch, and we've learned a lot from him. He does all kinds of different products, and he tries to integrate a natural form of garden. So basically you have your trees, which are your top cover, and then you're looking for all of your berry bush layers, and then your lower layers of produce. So in here we have 2 pear trees. This is a Moonglow pear, and over there is a Bartlett. This is a bed that we made especially for carrots. So we actually dug way down. It's about 1.5 foot deep of really good 1/4 inch sifted soil. So there's nothing in there rock-wise or anything that's bigger than about 1/4 inch. It was a lot of work to get the dirt for that because we did do that by hand, but we think it's really going to pay off when our carrots start to grow. Back there we have another bed of beets, and of course more peas. And then in the back here we have a couple of pretty interesting blueberry bushes. This one is a pink popcorn blueberry. And I'm trying to remember, this is a Cabernet Splash. So this is actually an ornamental blueberry, but the blueberries on it are excellent. So it's a dual purpose plant. You can see that it's got these like crimson red leaves that come out, and in the fall this one is absolutely beautiful. So it's designed to be pretty, but it also has really great berries. And another one of the pink popcorn blueberries. These have a bright pink berry when they're ripe, and they're very, very sweet. Down here we have our black raspberries. And we had a couple in the middle we got from Tractor Supply that were supposed to be the same kind. They didn't make it. But the ones that we got from Norse Farms are doing very well. So we're very happy with those. Again, we've got some strawberries. There's strawberries everywhere. I might have over-ordered a little bit, but I'm sure next year when we start having berries on them, it's going to be great. Back here is more garlic. And of course, more peas behind it. The peas behind this garlic, though, are actually pretty cool. They're a climbing pea, and they have purple pea pods. So that means they also have purple flowers. So they're really pretty when they start to flower, and they're a very prolific producer. We used these last year, and we got a lot of peas off of them. Down here, you can see Ryan's rhubarb. And then there's another rhubarb that we got the other day that's not doing so well. That was a Home Depot rhubarb. This other one was from our local nursery. So we have high hopes for this one. That one, we are still hoping, but we'll see. This is an Italian prune tree. I really like the Italian prunes. They're like a small, very sweet plum. And they're a dark, dark purple color. I don't expect either of these trees are going to have any plums this year. That one had a couple blossoms, but not much. And it didn't have a pollinator because this one didn't have any blossoms. This tree had a really, really rough start last year. It got completely infested with aphids, and it had no leaves left, and it looked really, honestly terrible. And I didn't think that it would live, but here it is. It looks great this year. So we're going to work really hard to make sure it doesn't get an aphid infestation this year. I did order neem oil, which is it's a seed extract. I'm not sure exactly what it's from, but it's safe for organic gardening. And so we have been using that on a few of our plants that look like they have some bug damage. And we'd prefer to use nothing, but sometimes you don't have a choice if you want your plants to survive, so we're trying to go with the most organic option that we have available to us. Down here, we have sort of a surprise. This is parsley, and this we planted last year. I believe it's an annual, but it's back again, so that's kind of exciting. Hopefully we'll get to use quite a bit of it this year. These are raspberries, again, that we got from Norse Farm last year, and they are already starting to have blossoms forming on them, although none of them bloomed yet, so we should have a really great raspberry crop this year. So I think that about wraps it up for the whole tour of the homestead plants and what we've done over the last few weeks. I know it was kind of a long video, but if you've made it this far, we really appreciate you watching. And we hope that you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments for us, please leave them down below. We love to hear from you guys. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.